What's up, everybody? Happy Good Monday, Bill.
Happy Monday. How are you?
I'm sick.
I can hear that in your voice.
Getting better, hopefully getting better. Before we get started today, I want to show something that I posted on social media a few days ago. So, Mr. Producer Man, can we roll the clip?
To try to get up, and I felt a hand in my shoulder that said to sit down. The man that was questioning us in front at that point, he says, "This is what you're going to say that took place." And he says, failed to cooperate. He says, bullets are cheap, they're a dime a dozen. After that, basically, I clamped down.
Well, from that, Christmas 1980, there can only be one incident that I could think of that comes to mind in the UK.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I mean, the voice, I'm not going to say who I think it is, but I have a pretty good idea of who it is. And for that person to come forward now, I'm very curious. Because, like I said, I don't want to get spun out of control here with how that all went down with Larry Warren. And, I think a lot of that came from Adrian Bustinza. And we know what John Burroughs experienced and some of the others. But that's a heck of a teaser.
I
want to, since you posted it, I want to hear more what you got to say about this.
At this point, nothing. Let's check the website. We'll leave it at that for now.
Oh, so the website? What is the website again? I saw it quickly on
warintheshadows.com.
War in the Shadows. So I'm sure people need to go and check that out to stay up to date. What's coming with this?
In about next Thursday, the website will receive its first update, and I just encourage anybody interested in this topic to follow along. I think there's some information the public doesn't know that's going to come out that a lot of people are going to be shocked, and I'll leave it at that.
You and I are friends with the Paranormal Rangers, John and Stan. And on Wednesday, because obviously in the last 24 hours, a name has come out, alleged NASA whistleblower, and they're going to have him on the show. It's going to be John, Stan, and Michelle, and they're going to interview this individual on Wednesday's show. I'm really curious to see what he has to say. I'm just catching wind of this. You mentioned before we started there was a Daily Mail article making reference to this gentleman. Did you hear anything about this?
Briefly, I believe it's a former NASA medical doctor.
That's what I'm hearing too. He was in the field of medicine, yes.
And I believe he saw a video of I want to say reverse engineered craft.
This is going to be interesting. But I'm going to say it like I've said it, even with all the documentaries that come out. You could put 200 witnesses at a hearing, unless they come out with evidence, something to back them up with anything they say. To me, it's just the same old, same old. I am so at the point where if they don't have a document to associate a case in reference to something that's going on, even an image, but and we've talked about this many times. Even if they come out with something, people are going to say, that's Photoshop, that's not real, blah, 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 it's fake. They're just trying to do a psyop on us. I mean, Toby, where do we go from here? Because there's hearings coming up now. We had a drone hearing. There's all kinds of stuff going on. I mean, what the heck is going on, dude?
That's a good question, and I think that's a good segue into bringing in this week's guest so we can get into the nitty-gritty of it all.
Before you do, this is an individual who's been doing this for quite some time and is well established and reputable. And what he's been doing, actually, I became a fan of his listening to him years ago because he's actually a true researcher, a person that actually did the work to look into cases and do, boots on the ground approach, unlike some others that do it from the back of a keyboard or, do you know what I mean?
You talking to me? But
without further ado, why don't we bring on our special guest?
Hello.
Alejandro, my friend, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Always great to be talking to you guys and happy to be here today.
Great to see you.
Yeah, you guys too. I always love seeing your mothership there.
But I got the T-shirt on. Let's not forget International UFO Congress.
Such a cool T-shirt, and that's one of the cool things. And this is kind of, I don't know, a theme to the day, teamwork. And I think that that's going to be a lot about my point. And we had a great team. So we had an incredible artist that would do that work. Yeah, I love that T-shirt. Really cool. That was one of his favorites.
You know what, too? And I don't even know if you have any more of them. The glow-in-the-dark alien cap.
Oh, yeah, we sold out. Those sell like hotcakes. And I always tell Karen, and I think she's going to do that, my significant other who owns the Congress now, that we still have like stuff and she's going to set up. But people love stuff like that. Like everybody loves those hats. They love the beanies with the aliens. She's got a bunch of really cool lights. So I think we're even going to set up a booth at the local swap meet because we were just there yesterday asking them about it. And I think it'll sell like crazy. And people love it. And there's no outlet for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I agree. I hope soon we hear of more conferences like yours.
Yeah.
And of course, Karen, in the near future. And I know I would love to be there when you do. So hopefully that will happen in the near future.
You'll know for sure. Of course, you and Toby will be some of the first people we contact. But I think it'll happen again eventually. It's just kind of, and we'll get into this, been kind of weird out in the field. And even, economically, things have gotten really difficult for doing that sort of thing.
So what's your take on everything that's going on? I mean, there's a lot's gone on since we last spoke, but I mean, it seems like it's either new or not new, more hearings, small hearings. I can't even keep up with all the spin that goes on out there with individuals involved and the credibility factors and the bickering. Alejandro, you've been doing this a long time. Have you ever seen it in the state that it is right now when we think that we could be at the point of possible some drip disclosure happening, but yet at the same time, it's so unorganized and like it's a mess to me.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's that social media drives like a lot of bad behavior is a lot of it, but also and I'm going to be very critical of these people that, I consider I even say right now, consider friends, although I don't think they consider me a friend anymore, just because I'm speaking the truth about their bad behavior, and bad behavior is bad behavior. In the past, we have had people, let's say like a Paul Hellyer or even a Colonel Holt, who can be kind of gruff, but still they're respectful. And, they appreciate other people's opinions. But now we have these former government officials who are mean and engaging in cyberbullying. And if you doubt them, they will marshal their armies and their sock puppet accounts to attack and take people down. And it's absolutely wrong. So it's created this environment where if you doubt these certain characters. It is more of a cult of personality than it is about the facts and the data. They will attack. So it creates this environment where we can't have civil discussion. Instead,
but are they trying to control the general narrative? I mean, is this about controlling?
I think I'm maybe a little more forgiving and maybe a little too forgiving in that sense, is in where I don't know that they are trying to control everything. I can understand. And a lot of people these days are like, obviously, this is an organized kind of effort to control the narrative. I'm not so sure about that. From my experience with these individuals, they just really have a very strong conviction and belief that there are these conspiracies and there are these things going on. But also, and this is why I've told people since the get-go, this is not a good source of information and nothing will come of it. How do I know that? Because all of us who have been involved with this know that the Bigelow Group, and these are all part of the Bigelow Group, it's the Bigelow Company. They've always, and it's funny because people used to despise Bigelow about 8 years or so ago, and for the longest time. And I was here defending him, saying, hey, guys, I know that he does some things that we don't like, but at least they're still searching. We shouldn't really hate on him so hard. And now everybody loves him. And I'm like, well, remember what you guys did hate on him for? That was legit. And so we have to remember that and still take that into account. And what did people hate on him for? Because they hoarded information. They would claim we've got evidence for X, Y, and Z, yet every time we were able to get anything from them, data or information-wise, it would quickly be debunked, and it wasn't as amazing as they had sold it. And that is exactly what continues to happen. OSAP was Bigelow. ATIP, came from Bigelow. ATIP was OSAP, but Lou Elizondo's club called ATIP, these are stemmed from OSAP, the Bigelow thing. UAP Task Force was people who worked with Bigelow. Grush is someone who got his information and worked with the Bigelow Group, and it's all tainted information. These are the guys who fell for every hoax that's come along. They fell for Richard Doty, that hoaxer who's an admitted hoaxer. They fell for the alien autopsies videos. They even hired Richard Doty after all of this. I mean, it's just time and time and time after again. So am I surprised that what happened yesterday when Lou Elizondo says I've got amazing evidence, and his amazing evidence, if it's a video of irrigation circles, I'm not surprised by this at all. What I'm actually a little bit happy about is that I've been ringing this bell for years and people just attack me like crazy. But I don't care. My followers go down. I don't have as much retweets, whatever. I'm not doing this for retweets and popularity. I'm doing this to get to the truth and to share evidence. And if I've got, I've been fortunate enough where I've been paid full time for well over 10 years to do this sort of work because of my integrity, because I stick to the facts. But even if I'm not doing that, I'm happy to work and then provide this information for free, which I've also done for a long period of time. So it's just watching this over the years. Luckily now people are like, I did a Spaces the other day and people were floored. They were like, oh my God, all of these revelations. And it's like, they're revelations to you, but if you would have listened to my podcast for the last 5 or 6 years, it's the same thing I've been saying all along. But now they're open to it because now they're like, you're right. These people have been making all of these bombastic claims. They haven't displayed any evidence. They make more bombastic claims in front of Congress and then display this ridiculous evidence that gets bombed, hurting all of our credibility in the field and our ability to be taken seriously. And so it's just the same thing over and over again. But, getting back to your original question, I don't think they would have shared or even gone to Congress if they didn't believe this stuff. I think what happens is they didn't act properly. So in other words, they came out and said, look, here's a host of information that proves aliens are here. Almost all of it, if not all of it, was debunked, except for maybe Nimitz, but still there's no hard evidence with Nimitz. But all of it's debunked, and now they're trying to grab at straws. Well, what about this? Well, what about that? When really, And at any time you can redeem yourself. At any time you can say, you know what? I've been putting the cart before the horse. We need to slow down, and we need to take a harder look at evidence before we put it out. And even I look at and share UFO videos every week. It's my job to look at and evaluate videos every day. But I always tell people, these videos that I'm showing you, I expect them to get debunked. But I'm hoping that one of these videos will not get debunked. And then we're going to have real evidence that we can share with the world that something's going on. I invite people like Mick West to look at my stuff and debunk it. I don't always agree with him, but mostly I do. He's got a lot of expertise and he can see things I don't see. But that's what we have to do. We have to do this as a team. It's got to be teamwork. And we've got to be willing to disagree with each other. At any point, any of these people I'm critical of, I would sit down with them and I'll ask them hard questions. And that's one of the things that I've always done. I always ask the hard questions in my interview, but I want to hear what they have to say. And I'm not expecting that, I'm going to get a gotcha. No, I'm hoping that they will have some insight and some information that'll make me rethink how I'm thinking and that we can all learn and move on together.
Yeah, I've been following online in the past few days, and I agree. You should be able to speak from your experiences, from your research, without people just dogpiling on you. I think it's healthy for people from every side of this to have their voice and to be heard. And so I do agree with all the online attacks. They're not helping anything. They're not doing anything. So I applaud you for pushing through, even though you're getting a lot of unwarranted hatred, I would call it. So I definitely, I've known you a long time. I value your opinion. So I'm glad you're coming out and talking about things from your perspective. And, only you can speak to your experiences you've had dealing with these people.
I think there's a bigger issue here at play. I think when we're dealing with people that have been in this field for so long, like all of us here, we've been involved with this at whatever level and whatever our involvement is. But this is not about what's going on within the community. This is about public projection and what they're going to see it as. And if you put out stuff that's not properly vetted, you got to make sure that whatever you're going to put out there, you take your time, you do the valid research, you get people that have the expertise, like Alejandro mentioned, a Mick West person or Mark D'Antonio or whoever it is. But you got to make sure that you have people that look at this stuff before you put it out there. And then quickly it's, this is not what you say it is. That doesn't look good. It just does not look good on the individual that's presenting it and the whole community as a whole. So again, this is about how the public is going to perceive this if they have that interest. And at a hearing, that's why I mentioned it earlier, at a hearing, I would hope that instead of hearing somebody's account, I don't care what level of military they were held or what position in government, please, like Alejandro said, we need evidence to back it up, but real valid evidence. Then at the same time, when you have stuff coming out and it's debunked, and is somebody purposely giving them that stuff to go out there and put it out there only so it looks foolish and debunked and makes it a big laughing stock like an egg kind of a deal? You know what I'm saying? So I think this is bigger. This is about what the public's perception is going to be on this, because the stuff that goes on behind the scenes, that goes on in any form of business or workplace, that happens. You're going to have that, but maybe not to the degree because of social media and the links they go to try to attack people or discredit them or whatever. But we have to think, like Alejandro said, as a team effort. This is about putting it out there for the public and for the public to become aware of this. This is a serious topic. The UAP topic is a serious topic. It is a national security threat, whether it's an adversary or otherwise. But this is a serious topic. And to have all this noise going on in the background is helping no one.
Right. We got to a point where NASA put together a study panel. And that panel came back and said, UAP are important. They're worth the effort to look into. They recommended that NASA look into it. Why isn't NASA looking into it? Because of the antics that we saw yesterday. and because of this hate that we're talking about. The panelists, the very start of their public presentation of their final results was to say, we were really disappointed because we got a lot of hateful, really bad stuff. Everybody on the panel got attacked on social media for looking at this and getting involved with it. And I know behind the scenes, nobody wants to get involved with it now. Why? If you're a scientist, why would you put your reputation and just, why would you invite, hey, everybody, I'm going to get involved with this. Send me a bunch of hate and threaten my family and say mean things about me. It's awful. And it's even hard, gets a little bit hard for me to deal with. And you all knew Lee Spiegel, great person. He and I would talk a lot. It would really hurt his feelings. He would really feel bad about that. And I can tell you, and I'm not afraid to share this because I think he shared this, Lou Elizondo used to really get hurt by it. So don't do it to other people, not to say that Lee wouldn't do that. Lee was very responsible and respectful. But Lou gets engaged in some of this stuff, even with sock puppet accounts. And so to your point, all of this has taken all this momentum that we had, where even mainstream scientists was saying, this is a real deal. Let's look into this. And now nobody wants to get involved. Now they're like, hey, it's all you. I was on a PBS special recently to talk about scientific investigation of this topic, and nobody should be threatened by that. Why? All they're trying to do, if you believe that aliens are here and interacting with us, then the effort to scientifically investigate this topic will prove you right. That effort will prove that you are right. You should be happy for scientific investigation. Instead, PBS I was one of the few non-scientists on this, I think maybe even the only non-scientist on this recent Nova special. I was kind of the historian guy, and they got a wave of hate. They were like, we're just getting all this hateful stuff on YouTube. Is this normal? And I'm like, unfortunately, it is in this field. And, that does not encourage people to then take this on and research it and help us make valid and important discoveries, which is what they want to do. What you just asked for, Bill, that's exactly what these people at NASA wanted to do. That's exactly what a lot of scientists want to do. People know that I work with the Scientific Coalition for UAP Studies, one of the small bastions of scientists involved. But a lot of those people stay anonymous, or they just leave because they don't want to get involved with all of this hate and craziness. So I'm like you, Bill. I'm just totally, people have been talking and talking and talking forever. And that's great. And I'm not saying those people are liars. Certainly not. In fact, I'm here defending, some of the people that we're all disappointed with, saying I'm not so sure they're liars. I can't say that for sure, but I think they believe what they're saying. But at the same time, we have to be a team. And the scientific investigation is part of that. So if you want to make discoveries, don't bash that side of things, because then that'll never happen. And at this point, unfortunately, I don't think it's going to happen. I started my own nonprofit called UAP Discovery. It's uapdiscovery.org. People can see. And what I wanted to build was like a model of how NASA can do this sort of work in a safe environment that is positive, that encourages kids to go build camera systems and sensor systems and try to get some UFO videos. That's why I'm involved with Enigma and the Enigma app, because we're getting a ton of videos that I can look at and share. And we have some videos that are really interesting that we can't figure out. I want that hard data, and that's what I'm trying to get. But instead, when you just face a lot of heat if you're not just agreeing with what everybody says. And this is what's really funny, is that those people who are like, oh, you're denying that aliens are here. No, I'm not. I'm trying to validate whether or not that's the case, because it could be people from the future, multidimensional, who knows what's going on. But we need that data to figure it out. But you people who do believe that also disagree on the nature of it. You have this huge battle behind it, and you guys in Roswell know better than everybody. You're kind of the front lines, because you have religious organizations out there talking about aliens are bad, aliens are evil, they're the devil, they're demons. And then, of course, you have the other side, these groups like the Greer groups who are like, oh, the aliens are good and they're here to save us. And anybody who says aliens are doing bad stuff are lying to you. So, I mean, even inside of that, there's a lot of fighting. So how are we going to figure out what's going on? We need to track them. We need sensors. We need tracking systems. We've got to gather data to figure it out on ourselves. And we can do that. And the talking heads or the people making claims, like you said, Bill, isn't really going to get us to that next step.
Okay. Now, I agree with everything you said, but I'm looking at, because I don't, believe it or not, I don't do social media. I'm glad I don't, because I'd be afraid to see what's on it.
It is good you don't. That's very wise. I wish I was that.
But at the same time, look, when these whistleblowers start coming out, it takes a lot. It takes a lot of courage to come out and put your reputation and it's really your livelihood is at stake. Everything that you did, your career. But they grush. And Lou Elizondo said it at a hearing. He said that the intimidation, the attacks, the threats, they do go through this. And anybody, I don't think I would want to be a whistleblower and have to deal with all that stuff coming back to me just because I'm going to get attacked. As soon as I sit on that chair, I'm going to be attacked. They're going to try to discredit me. They're going to try to go after me. They're going to try to do this. So that is to me, overall, that's a bad precedent moving forward. Why would you want to be a whistleblower? When you see everything else that's going on, I would say, screw that. I don't want to go and put myself on the line and my family and all that when it's like this. Another thing, too, is we know how things are when people look at the government, the mistrust in government. If they see that all this stuff is going on and they're confused by the messages that are coming out from this one or that one or this one, it's the same's going to happen. Mistrust. They're not going to believe anything anyone has to say. It doesn't matter if you're A, B, Z. It doesn't matter where it's coming from because they're going to say, you know what? I don't know if I believe him, her, this, that, because you know what? I'm so confused. And that's why I think, despite differences, people need to respect each other, number one. Two, people need to come together and work on the ultimate goal, and that is to bring the truth to the public. Forget about what we all know, because we know a lot of stuff that the public doesn't know. It's not about us. It's about putting it out to the public and telling the American people or the people in the world what's really going on here and bringing the truth to them. Because I'm with you, Alejandro. I don't know if they're extraterrestrial, they're coming from another planetary or interdimensional or from the future or whatever. I mean, those are questions I ask every day. But obviously something's going on. And without the science, it's worthless to me. I need the science. I need the data. I need the evidence. I need something tangible that I could say, oh, you know what? This is real. And you know what? If it turns out to be an adversary, I'm okay with it. But that doesn't mean that's the only thing that's going on.
Exactly. I mean, there is science in this that is verifiable as far as anomalous phenomena that are part of the subset of UAP, such as ball lightning, Earth lights. These are both things that scientists believe are real, but haven't been able to prove. We can gather data and help that scientific effort to identify those, to prove those are real, and then to understand the mechanics behind how they work. How does that help us? Well, it makes us have scientific discovery so we understand physics in our world better and we can develop, technologies and stuff like that. But it also helps us in this field because then we know, oh, that's not, a craft, that is ball lightning. We know what environments these things happen in. So then we know better what to look for when we're looking for things that are anomalous. So I think there are scientific discoveries that can be made. And right now, everybody can get involved with it. You could download our app. If you don't want to download our app for some goofball reason, because it's free and you get all kinds of cool tools with it, just use your phone and then submit that to somewhere. That's fine. But we have, our phones. We have other systems. If you go to UFODAP, that's my favorite place, UFO Data Acquisition Project, UFODAP.com. He's got all kinds of really cool systems that he's built there that you could buy that are camera systems and then other types of sensors that you can add to it, such as all sky cameras that get all spectrums of light, temperature, radiation, all of this sort of stuff. And data, the same stuff that Galileo is doing at Harvard or that UAPX has been doing. which are scientific driven efforts, science driven, PhD driven efforts, where we can gather this data to figure out more. All of us can get involved with that. But the problem with the whistleblowers is you have to be a real whistleblower if you're going to call yourself a whistleblower. To lose prior, he used to not say he was a whistleblower. Whenever I would call him that, he would say, no, I'm not a whistleblower. And he wasn't. But lo and behold, it turns out there was no official UFO investigations going on in the government. That was not true. That entire New York Times article was almost completely false. What we had was a project called OSAP, not ATIP, like the New York Times said. ATIP was a nickname for OSAP. We had a project that was given, what was budgeted. They didn't get it all, but they were budgeted $20 million to investigate advanced aerospace weapon systems, just like the title says, and to create these scientific papers on different weapon systems and theoretical physics. And they provided those papers. So they did what they were asked to do. Behind the scenes, though, they were investigating the paranormal, the Skinwalker Ranch stuff. They were investigating Bigfoot, cattle mutilations, poltergeists, UFOs being one of those things, all of this stuff. And you could read this because the guy who ran the project for the DOD has a book. Lekatsky has a book out there where he outlines everything. I was saying years before the book even came out. I knew this because we all knew what Bigelow was up to during those years. But they were doing that unofficially. They were doing that. They even say it themselves. We didn't want anybody to know we were doing this. They did have the blessing of Harry Reid, who helped start the program, and they did have some Congress people who said, yeah, let's go ahead and do this. So they did have the blessing of officials, but it wasn't an official UFO project. It was a secret. They were doing it behind the scenes, and nobody knew they were doing it. So when the DOD says, this is where the nuance is and where people don't get it. When the DOD says there was no official UFO project, they're right. But at the same time, they will say there were UFO investigations that were done by the DOD under this project. That's also true. So they were doing them, but they weren't doing them because they were tasked to do them. It's because they took it upon themselves. So right there, we don't have, that was a falsehood. So you're not a whistleblower if you're blowing the whistle. Who are you blowing the whistle on? Bigelow and Lekatsky for doing paranormal investigations when they weren't supposed to with the taxpayer's dollar? Is that what you're blowing the whistle on? Because you're not blowing the whistle on secret hidden by UFO investigations, unless you're talking about the stuff you yourself hid from not only the public, but Congress. So we have all this falseness. And then when it comes to Grush, we hear a lot of the same stuff the Bigelow group has been saying for years, like I've been saying, that they can't substantiate. And a lot of this even comes from Richard Doty, a disinformation person who admitted to disinformation. He's the one who first came up with this MJ-12 stuff. He's the first one to come up with this aliens at Area 51 stuff. And what happens? He goes on TV in 88 or 89, says there are aliens that took over our base in Area 51 and there was a big battle and they love strawberry ice cream and all of this crazy stuff. A few weeks later, you have this guy, Bob Lazar, coming out and saying, oh yeah, I used to work there. And then nobody questions or even looks at Bob Lazar's background, which I'm going to write an article on soon, but you can go look at it and it's not pretty. It's full of deceit and lies. But the problem is then they're out repeating all of this stuff that we hear in the mythos. It's like they just went on the internet. And I called them UFO fanboys because it's kind of this UFO fanboy stuff. And in my experience, that's what they're like. They're like me when I first got started in this before I really dug deep. And instead of doing the deep digging and doing the research, they're out spouting all of this stuff, putting photos out there. And that's a great example of the type of research they do. Oh, look, I've got this video. Let's put it out there. I've got this video of triangular UFOs. Let's put it out there. And then they get debunked right off the bat by those of us who have much more experience doing this. And then everybody looks worse. Whereas all of us are very open, and I've expressed to them many times, I'm very open. Let me take a look. Let me get some of these videos in front of some of my colleagues who know better than I do even. And let's take a look as a group at these videos before we put them out, like we do at the SCU. The SCU vets everything very much before it's put out. Our last case was, the Aguadilla case was examined by the Arrow. And you know, in that PBS special, the former Arrow director, Sean Kirkpatrick, said it was birds. The Arrow report said it was balloons. I'm not so sure. Look at the video. It does not look like birds or balloons, but at least there's some civil discourse. And SCU just last week said, hey, you guys said X, Y, and Z, but you didn't share your work on that. Can you give us more information on how you came to these conclusions? And then once they share that information, which it's their responsibility to do if they're going to be truly transparent, then SCU scientists can look at it and agree or not agree. And SCU is definitely willing, because it's happened before, to say, oh, we were wrong on this. The math that they did is correct, and we're going to alter our outlook on this. But until they share that information, you know, SCU is going to still say, well, we're standing by what we have unless you can prove us wrong. And that's the way it goes, civilly going back and forth and working together, not just, oh, look at these debunkers, liars, they're so full of it, they're saying this and that and that. No, you know, let's work together and do this the right way.
You know, it's funny, I was trying while you were discussing this, I had, and I can't find them right now, and I wish I would have known that we were going to be talking about this. I actually had the documents from the early, well, it was actually mid to late 2000s, where the government was issuing out guidelines to contractors into looking into breakthrough technology. I had those documents.
I've got it. I just wrote an article about clearing up the misperception between OSAP and ATIP and Arrow and who was what. And
so you're right. It was going on for quite some time.
Yeah.
And
so
I don't know if it was
TV, just real quick, you can get those links. The latest story, I've got links to all of that data.
Another thing, and this is frustrating to me too, when they put out these videos, and I do sky watches. I have a Sony A7S III camera right next to me. I take this stuff seriously. And when I see these videos, and Mark D'Antonio can tell you too, the camera is out of focus. There's so many things. And, you know, what looks like a rod is not, it's a whole bunch of stuff to do with a camera. Okay. But then I'm going to share something with you. I don't know if I've ever shared this with you. Toby, you've seen this. I captured this, Alejandro, in 2014 over my house. Now the camera system, huh?
It's a blast from the past.
Yeah, this is old, but this is my video. This is real. This is not Photoshop. This was over my house. It's looped. What is that?
Go on.
I mean, what the heck is that?
See, this is what I'm talking about. This is a good video. I've got several videos. Why don't they come to us and then we all work together with SCU, with Galileo, whoever else wants to work with us, and evaluate these. And I think it is incumbent upon us then to get it in front of Mark D'Antonio and Mick West. And interestingly, as we know, although Mark D'Antonio is very heavily involved with all of this and believes there's something to it, he mostly, I don't know that he's ran across one video that he can say, I think that's real. That's fine. Why don't you believe that? You know, SCU and Aguadilla disagree with Mark D'Antonio's and, you know, Mick West's ideas. But that's okay. At least then we know what the other side is thinking. We can counter with our own data. And then that's how science works. It's a community. But you're right. You know, out in the public, like, this is a really good video. I've got some good videos. Others have good videos. There are much better videos out there than these silly videos and that goofball, just ridiculous picture that was shared yesterday.
That's the point I'm trying to make. There's such, I mean, real videos that are unexplainable, like mine, like what you said. I sent this to numerous people. And the thing that impressed me in a weird way was everybody came back that I trusted with a different answer. So that tells me nobody knows what the heck it is.
That's a great point. Exactly. Just like I say, when Kirkpatrick and Arrow are coming back with two different explanations, that means neither of them know for sure what it is.
Exactly. That tells me now we're dealing with something. Because, like, we all know this, 99 point whatever % of it is got a rational, logical explanation behind it. it's that really small number that tells you, okay, now what exactly, like mine, I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is. Some people say it's a meteor breaking up. That's not a meteor breaking up. It could. This is 11 years ago. Could it have been a drone test? Yes, it could have been. But a human is not going to survive in that G-force of what is doing above me and in my sky. So it's either a drone or it's something else. That's my conclusion. But at the same time, at least this is a credible video that can be analyzed properly, not something that you put out and 3 days later, oh, that was a camera anomaly. Or, I mean, you put all that effort to put something out there and you're building it up and then it turns out to be nothing.
And it would be different if these guys were, just anybody out there in the public. But these are people who are journalists or who are former government officials. These are people who should know better. And a lot of people who have been intelligence are like, these people would get fired for this sort of behavior in the government or in intelligence, because you always have to vet. You always have to get your information and get other eyes on it. You don't do things in a silo like that. You do it as a community, and you don't come out. And this is what's very frustrating with Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp and Elizondo and all of these guys, is that they'll come out and say, we've got this amazing evidence, pretending like it's the end all be all. And this proves everything that they've been saying. And then it's quickly debunked. And worse, some of them will never come back and say, oh, I was wrong. Now, Lou, to his credit, does do that. But maybe once we can forgive you for it, but not multiple times. That means you're a bad source of information. And when these people keep doing this over and over again, it means they are not credible sources of information. It puts everything that they tell us into question, because they obviously have low levels of discernment, and we can't trust what they're saying. And I wish we could. And if they had conducted themselves better, where they were more careful about how they presented the information, then their credibility would be preserved. But it hasn't been, and their credibility is shot. And when I say these are bad sources of information, and it kind of gets back to the beginning of what I was saying, that is why from the beginning I've said Grush is not going to share anything with us. Lou's not going to share anything with us. They don't have anything. They have the same stuff Bigelow had. They have the same stuff Bigelow and his group has always been saying they've had and never been able to produce anything. They're a bad source of information. I wish that weren't the case, but it is. So we need to look at other sources of information. And I'm not even saying there's not whistleblowers out there. I'm sure there are people sitting on information that's probably terribly interesting. But when we're listening to these guys and looking at the wrong direction, then nobody's looking where the real stuff is. Because I believe, and there's some work, especially like Paul, I forget his name, in Australia, has done some real good work where he tracked back who are the organizations getting these really good cases. Where is that data going for like the Iran case or for any of these other cases? And they go back to foreign technology scientific organizations that are very top secret. If any work has been done, that's where it's been done. And why do they say there's no UFOs? Because it's classified as foreign until they can prove it's not. And they can keep saying, we believe this is foreign technology, even if they don't know how the technology works, but it keeps it under wrap. And maybe rightfully so, because how do you be the guy who says, oh, this isn't Chinese, this is otherworldly? And then it turns out to be Chinese, and then you're a total fool. You've got it. That's why we're not going to get anything from the government. We're not going to get anything from intelligence. We either got to get it ourselves, which we can do. All of these great cases out there weren't cases that anybody in the government gave us. They were ones that we sought and found ourselves, or that were leaked.
And I would point out, I agree with you, and I think there are some really good organizations out there that are starting to put this together. One that I always reference, and I know you'll agree with me on this, National UFO Historic Record Center.
Oh, number one.
David Marler,
that's an example of very high integrity and doing it right. Absolutely.
And anybody that hasn't been to his facility, it's it's amazing. I told my wife, for someone that's into UFOs, that's like going to Disneyland. She had to drag me out of there kicking and screaming every time I've gone. So
I was at the opening, and it was amazing to see all of the government officials from Rio Rancho, which is a nice neighborhood in Albuquerque, coming forward and being so excited about what David's doing and participating. And they're the ones who got the funds to open up his center. And it's wonderful because that is the right effort. And David Marler is one of those people, you don't find him on social media fighting here and there. He's very focused on sharing the information. And this is one thing, a bone I would definitely pick with Arrow, which is that their historical report, when it goes back to like the distant past, I think they were right about Arrow and that group, the OSAP stuff. But when you get into the distant past, I think they did an awful job. It was full of errors. And David Marler sitting on this mountain of great data and extraordinary cases that even the Air Force couldn't explain. They couldn't explain over 700 cases, despite trying to debunk them as hard as they could. So there is a lot of good data there and interesting information. And David Marler calls it like it is. He's very fact-based, very high integrity. I can't say enough good things about him.
Yeah, and it's really interesting being there. I mean, they should have taken a look at what he had, and I would suggest the members of Congress that are looking into this do it too, because he has the original Project Blue Book notes with J. Allen Hynek's personal notes written on them. That those aren't in the Library of Congress. They're at the National UFO Historic Record Center, and it tells a very different story than the story that's out there officially on Blue Book. So,
I agree with you too. That's where Congress needs to go. That's who needs to be sitting in these hearings. Someone with high integrity who has the facts and the data, and he can bring and will bring, knowing David, the paperwork with him, the receipts. Will finally in a congressional hearing get receipts for something if they brought someone like David Marler. And every one of those Congress members should be required that they visit that National UFO Record Center.
But it's back to that's why I was looking on my screen. I don't know if you guys seen this. This is from September of last year. It's a document that I have. And it doesn't really matter because Congress's hands are tied. They really are when they overclassify SAPs and they get it almost impossible for them to go into SCIF, even though the Gang of Eight and some others that maybe had the classification to get this. But unless you bring like stuff like you're saying from Mahler's, the receipts and all this stuff, it would be nice if you could declassify documents or anything associated directly with that specific case to show that they were working on it. But I want to show you something quick because I can't believe it, but we're almost out of time. I want to show you. I don't know if either one of you seen this. And I think it's a really interesting. There's only a few lines. It's a big document, but it says here, I'm going to try to read it on this screen. Initial access to DoD SAPs will be strictly controlled based on broad collaboration and shared risk with SAP Enterprise. Access to SAP will be strictly limited to the minimum number of personnel necessary. Granting initial access to a SAP will be based solely upon the determination that the individual, 1, has a valid need to know, 2, has the necessary security clearance, 3, meets approved personnel security prerequisites, 4, will contribute to program execution or oversight. And on the bottom, look at this one on number 8. All personnel accessed to DoD SAPs will notify the director, and it goes on to other individuals, in a timely fashion when briefing or providing DoD SAP material to any member of Congress or their staff. No DoD contract entity, contractor or employee, contractor representative, consultant will provide SAP material to any member of Congress or their staff without director approval. And this is dated, let's go all the way back up, September 12th, 2024. So
and as much as you want to criticize Susan Go, who is the PR person for the military, she tells it like it is. And, it wasn't too long ago, and I think it was probably to John Greenwald, who's, always asking her questions, where she said, and he said, well, what are your plans to share information? She said, we're not required to share information about what we're researching, how we're researching it, or the results of our research. And we have no intention of sharing any of that.
Exactly. That's it.
They're not going to share anything, and they don't want to. They believe that it's national security. And to be honest, who am I to say that it's not? So we got to go out there and get it ourselves, and we can. Toby's got some, really good information. It sounds like I'm very excited about it, about 1980. So we'll see. Yeah. But more than that, you've got that amazing video. I've got great videos that I'm sharing every week. There is tons of stuff out there. Any of us can go out, get a bunch of buddies together and invest in some of these sensor systems and put them up and catch our own data. What are they going to do if we're getting all this data and we're catching these amazing things with all of this instrumentation and we've got this data? Nothing. And we're going to we do have at least some scientific interest, and we can increase it by this sort of work to get that sort of stuff analyzed. We can do it all ourselves if we wanted to. Get off of our butts and get off of our keyboards and get out there and get some data.
Science. Data.
Science, baby.
And that's the way. That's the way to go for the future. It can't be just a hearsay or a story or an account. It's great. It sounds awesome. I mean, wow. But without the data or the evidence, it's nothing. I'm telling you, I'm to the point.
I'm all about field work. I'm looking at my case right now of stuff that I've pulled from the debris field, the skip site, the alleged final resting spot, and I agree. The public needs to get their own stuff, get it tested, get it analyzed, and make that public. Mm-hmm. Let's just put it all out there. If it's something explainable, that's what it is.
Right.
If it's unexplainable, then that just broadens the mystery and gets more people interested.
Remember when there was that footage of somebody capturing on camera, even though it may or may not have been true or not, but when something goes viral like that, everybody seems to pay attention. Mm-hmm. So, like Alejandro said, if ordinary folk can play such a vital, critical role in getting to the truth for disclosure, because I think it's actually going to come from the public. I honestly think it's going to come from our end.
Totally.
Something that's going to go viral, that's undeniable. It's not photoshopped. It's not AI. And you're going to see how much attention that gets compared. And you know how quickly, because you guys know about social media more than I do, how quickly it'll spread. It'll go so much faster than anything we probably could hear from anybody that speaks out of hearing.
And do not go to any of these big talking heads. I'm sorry, guys, and I apologize if this upsets any of them who may get word of this. Don't go to Lou Elizondo. Don't go to George Knapp or Jeremy Corbell. Don't go to any of those people. If you go to anybody, come to us, any one of the people right here, or go to your local media. But don't go to these people who are just going to hoard the information and try to make a big marketing thing out of it so they look so wonderful, and not treat it with the respect. And in fact, I would say go to SCU or Galileo. Go to any organization that's got more integrity and that are doing this for the right reason and doing the work, the hard work that needs to be done to verify your information.
I agree. Just like if you had a sample of something, you want to test through all the proper procedures and protocols, have it determine what it is and find out the answer. I feel the same thing about my video. I'm not just going to give it out to anybody. And you know what? If it comes to the truth, I would never charge. No, I don't want profit. I just want it out for the public, period. Don't get me started with that, but I agree. But anyway, I think we're already out of time. Alejandro, where can people find your work or your podcast or everything that you're doing?
Yeah, you know what? I am a consultant for Enigma, the Enigma app, but I just think that it's great and it's a wonderful resource because we're getting a lot of videos and getting a lot of reports, and we're penetrating the general public, not, the traditional kind of UFO community, which I also think is wonderful. So check out the app. It's free. If for nothing else, go check out the videos on it and see what you think. On the first tab are videos that actually I curate, and these are kind of the best of the week. Like I said, these are not all alien spacecraft or anything, but a lot of these are ones where I can't figure out what the heck it is. And I would love for you guys to share it and try to help me figure it out. You can go to openminds.tv, where I periodically on and off had my podcast and articles popping up there. And I always provide receipts for everything I say. These aren't just opinion pieces. These are pieces with tons of data where you can go check my work. And if you disagree or you think I got something wrong, I would love to hear it, because I want to make sure that I'm getting good information out there and I'm not also having, putting out anything that's wrong. So yeah, those are a couple places you can find me. And UAP Discovery is burgeoning. It's just beginning, but I'm posting a lot of news and cases on there. So that's uapdiscovery.org.
Thank you so much for coming on with Toby and I. Toby?
Thank you guys for having me. Can't wait to see you guys in person again.
Yes.
Yeah, hopefully it'll be at a new UFO Congress, because I never got to go.
Oh, man.
I want the beer. I want the cat. You kidding me? I'm ready. Let's go.
Bill's just here for the chicken. We all know it. So, Alejandro, thanks again.
My pleasure. Thank you,
have to have you on again. And
yes,
for me and Bill, we will see everybody next week. Thanks, guys.
Run.